Hi, my name's Olivia Gennaro. I am a middle school, high school art teacher. I teach 7th through 12th grade right now. I just moved up from elementary. I was there for 5 years, teaching K through 5. So this is all new to me. I'm starting a program that in the past has been middle school has pretty much only done elements and principles of design worksheets, and high school has done a lot of early American craft based lessons. So I am slightly overwhelmed and very busy. Um, Excuse my mess because it is about 6 in the morning right now. I go to the gym at 4:45, so I am a little bit sore and tired right now. Um, I'm going to be talking about obviously, my methods of research paper. So I'm just going to start into it. My research problem, at the beginning of the semester, I wanted to look at different forms of integrated learning. But after starting the semester and starting with my students, I realized it's not something that's going to be applicable for where I am in the state the students are in right now. So I kind of had that like aha moment because I've always done student-led art events, and I did that in my student teaching. I did that when I was in college. I did that to elementary, and it's something that I am super, super passionate about that I realize not everyone does, and I couldn't really find any research on it, and I couldn't find many people that do it. Um, so what it's about is I have the students basically plan, run, and execute their own art events. Some of them have been workshops. Some of them have been art shows, fundraisers, mini installations where it might be during school, so teachers can come in or students can come in and see it, but it's all ran by the student body. So I'm gonna read off some of my from some parts of my paper just so I stay on task because I can kind of ramble and mumble and talk about everything forever. So here I have, can student-led events change student appreciation, excitement, and dynamic in art class? So my goal is I want to see how the student-led events actually changes their opinion and their views in art class. I know from a teacher's aspect, I can see a huge difference in pride and ownership and responsibility when they lead their own art events. In 5th grade, I always did the end of the year art show, 5th grade, or yeah, in 5th grade. In elementary, I always had the 5th graders do their own art show where they were in charge of the whole schools. They set it up, they decided on the food. We took a field trip to a museum so they could see how they curated events. We met with the director. We kind of did little mini impromptu curations. And they are so excited and so proud of that art show. It's unreal. The ones who get the most into it are normally my boys that don't love the typical art class. So they walk around with sunglasses on and they're like the museum security. And we have to talk about how to nicely say, please don't touch the artwork, instead of saying, get away from the art, which they try to say all the time. So, like I said, I know what I see out of the students, but I've never really I've never formally questioned or surveyed them to see how they feel about running the events and if they think it changes their outlook on art class. So let me scroll through here. I apologize for the structure. I trying to stay on task as much as possible this early. So the student-led events I'm going to do for my mini pilot this year is going to be, and this is going to be I want to do year-long research for this, so I'm going to do mini ones right now that are going to be a workshop. Is going to be an art-led workshop, and at the end of the year, we're going to have an art show, which the middle school, high school has never had before. Some of my topic questions that I was thinking about is, how do student-led events affect students' opinion on art? How do they affect community views on arts in a school district? Can these events become advocacy for the arts? When student-led events are added to a student-centered learning program, how does it affect that SEL program? How do student-led events affect student engagement in art class? Does it change their learning or the way they're learning in an art class? What and when is the best way to implement the student-led events? What kind of training do the teachers need to feel comfortable with this? I personally have always been super comfortable doing this, and I never really thought about training until I talked to some other educators, and they thought I was insane. Because the kids take full reign and they go for it and they do it, and it always turns out amazing. And I guess I have a lot of faith in it, and I know it's just going to work out in the end. But obviously, that's a little bit of a sticky gray hesitation area for some teachers. And then finally, how do school districts affect student-led events in terms of process, legal issues, etc.? All the school districts I've been at has been very accepting and opening to these type of events. They know that the students lead them and I oversee them. And if there's any convincing that ever needs to be done, I have the students do that as well. It's a student-led event. They need to understand the legalities top to bottom. So they even look at the paperwork with me. What building requests do we need to do? All of those issues as well. So I kind of went over, obviously, some of my background of the research problem. The first one of these I did, the first formal one I did was in my pre-student teaching, and I had 9th grade students. Actually, I had one class that was pretty solo, and I had them splatter paint. We did action painting, abstract expressionism, and the negative space, so they had to plan this top to bottom. The negative space was actually me. So they had to come up with an emotion, and they had to pick different colors and different techniques and splatters to evoke that emotion in their final artwork. So they positioned me in different ways to have that emotion seen. We did a art show at the end of the year, and that art show was during school. Kids led it, like I said, top to bottom, and we were able to have any of the participants, students, teachers, administration vote to see what emotions it was. And the kids were so excited that it was a huge success. Everyone was guessing the correct emotions. It was just like, I kind of cried a little bit because they were so proud and they were the ones talking to everybody, giving them tours. It was just amazing. So the significance of this research, I feel, is just so important to have those kids really take charge and ownership of their own learning, their own material, their own class. The student-led events is like our proof. It is proof that these kids know what they're doing. It is proof that they are excited, they're passionate about it. And even the ones that aren't throughout the year, this event, the events that I've done, it always surprises me. The ones who are most excited are normally the ones that don't love the traditional art lessons. So my research method, questions and method, I am doing action research. So the first thing I did was conduct some surveys or a survey with some of my students with a rating scale, and I've started student interviews. They're not in my paper yet, just to see what's going on in their heads, what they think about these student-led art events, because right now I'm in a situation, since I've moved up, that they've never done any of these. My elementary kids knew what to expect. They knew what they were doing. They knew that they're in charge and it's all theirs. So I'm kind of interested to see the difference between students who have never done this, which I'm working with now, and students who I've had for 4 years, so my middle schoolers, that kind of grew up knowing that they're in charge of their own thing and they get to do their own events. So my pilot was I surveyed 22 students. This was just a quick survey. Some of the questions were, how often do core teachers ask for your input in lessons, planning, projects, etc.? I had 19 out of 20 say never. How often are you asked for your input in core classes? I had 18 say never. How often have you been in charge of an event or showcase a learning skill or knowledge at school? There was 15 nevers, 4 rarelys, and then the rest were sometimes. So some of them are getting some exposure to this in one way or another. I wanted to see if any of the other teachers or subjects in the school were doing anything like this, and I was actually really excited to see that some were. Finally, I kind of went into the art mode too. It's how confident are you in your artistic abilities? And the majority, so 15 out of 22, said somewhat. How confident are you in talking about, critiquing, or discussing art? We had 12 say somewhat, and the rest were all over the scale. How often does your art teacher ask for your input in lesson planning and project tasking? I had 17 say most of the time. So this is after I've had them for about 1.5 months now when I took this. So would you be interested in running or organizing your own art show of you and your peers' work in the school district? I had 14 out of 22 say somewhat interested, and the rest were on the higher scale of very interested, and one said unsure. Would organizing and running an art show make you appreciate art more? This was 100% all over the scale. And I talked to them after that just in a little class discussion, and it seemed like they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know what to expect because it's something that they've never done. They've never even seen an art event, let alone think about what would happen if they were in charge of it. So I was really happy that they said that because I wanted to see from someone who's super uncomfortable with the situation or super unfamiliar with how they're going to learn and grow when we do this. I think it's the purest, it's going to be the purest answers I can get. They don't have any background knowledge or anything to skew their answers in one way or the other. So I was glad that when I took all that the high school students that I'm doing this research with are so unfamiliar. And I'm hoping that what I see in the students when we do this project comes out in their opinion. There's so much research that I was looking into with student-centered learning that most of the research was based off of a teacher's view or like academic standings. I didn't see it. It was hard to find research that's showing the student's opinion or the student's value. I think that's what's most important, and that's kind of, in my mind, the whole point of the student-led art events, the student-centered learning, and I'm hoping that my research paper or my eventual research paper might show what their actual opinions are, and I might be wrong. So I don't know. I'm excited to see. Thank you for listening to my rambling, and sorry about all the hand motions, and hopefully I wasn't all over the place. I get really, really excited about this, and when I finally landed on and decided on doing student-centered or student-led art events, it was, like I said, my aha moment. I'm like, this is my thing. I love doing this, and I'm so passionate about it, and I don't talk to a lot of people that do this already. So I'm super, super excited. Okay, thank you. Bye.